Not all AI image tools are created equal, and using the wrong one is going to waste you a ton of time. So, which one is actually the best one to use for your project? In this video, we're going to test out 5 different AI generation models that I consider to be some of the best. And my goal is to show you how I test the same exact prompt across all 5 of them, but then give you an optimized prompt for how I get the best result for each of these AI generation models. Because some of them are better for graphics and some of them are better for photorealism. If you try hard enough with your prompt, you can actually get some surprisingly great results. The 5 we're going to test are Dalle, Flux, Ideogram, ChatGPT, and Gemini. Now, the last 2 you might be thinking, wait, I use ChatGPT for like writing and stuff. Well, I'm going to show you some stuff that I think is pretty surprising, so just wait for it. All right, let me show you our base prompt. And I created it to be more practical for a specific use case. So imagine for a second that we're working with a skincare brand and we need to work on a concept for how we're going to be showing off a new lotion bottle, and we want it to be aesthetic and calming and things like that. So our base prompt is a premium skincare serum bottle on a stone pedestal surrounded by soft natural lighting, eucalyptus leaves, and mist. Minimalist, luxurious vibe with warm morning sunlight and a shallow depth of field. Now, I did go back and forth to craft that prompt with ChatGPT. I didn't want it to be too specific or too intense because there's a lot of different ways that we can optimize and improve this prompt, and that's what I want to show you with each model. Now, lucky for you, here in Kittl, we actually have 3 of these 5 models in Kittl already. Over here in the panel in Kittl AI, if I open up Image Generator, I can go up to this little drop down right here, and you can see Dalle 3, Flux 1.1 Pro, and Ideogram. And we're actually going to be adding more models, but I'm going to let you guess which ones you think are coming to Kittl. Go ahead and drop a comment down below for which model you think we're adding next. So I generated these images with the base prompt, as you can see over here on the left side, original, and then here you can see optimized, and then you're going to see on the left Dalle 3, Flux, Ideogram, and we're going to go through each one of them, but we did it basically in the same order that I introduced it in, and I used them all here in Kittl, and I didn't use any save styles or image styles or preset styles, but we can definitely test some of those out later in the video to see how it could be even more improved. So let's go over the base prompt right here for Dalle 3, and I would say that it's okay. All right, so it did generate a bottle that looks pretty decent, but it doesn't really have a great grasp over the eucalyptus and where to put it, and the sunlight is kind of all over the place. There's light that appears to be coming from multiple angles that doesn't necessarily make sense, and there's a couple of added things here in the background like columns and stuff. But if we look at the optimized image, and I have the optimized prompt, which I will read to you in a second here, we can tell that this generation is a lot stronger. It is still a little bit blemishy. It's still a little bit more artistic in nature as opposed to something for photorealism, but Dalle does really shine more in the graphical area than it does in the photorealistic area. But you can see with some tweaks, we did get something a little bit more aesthetic. Now, you can see over here on the right, it's a bit longer than our base prompt. So we have a stylized skincare product mockup, another important word that you can add to your prompts, which most of the generation tools know how to interpret by now. Minimalist composition with soft neutral tones. The bottle is centered on a flat stone surface with subtle shadows and soft light. That was definitely nailed in this one. There is certainly a flat stone surface, there are certainly subtle shadows, and it is a very soft looking light. Then include gentle natural textures and label space. Now, you can tell there's no eucalyptus in this prompt. We could have added it back, but I'm trying to give this model, the Dalle model, exactly what it needs to focus on without trying to add too many textural elements to it. So you can see that this one is a lot more consistent in terms of color and the stone and everything else that has to go with it. And this is very important here at the end, and label space. You could also have said a blank label area or do not include text. And you can see here, this bottle is certainly more of a shampoo looking bottle, but it's left us with a lot more space to work with than this one, which is a little bit smaller. Now you could debate, okay, well, this is more of a serum bottle and this is more of a lotion bottle, but then you could go over here and you could change this to be more specific specific to the bottle type. Let's move on to Flux, and on the left you can see our base prompt, which I'll be popping up the base prompt here at the bottom of the screen so that you have kind of a reference point for what we did. And then on the right, you can see the optimized prompt, and I'll scroll over in just a second. But go ahead and think about what is totally different between these two. I think just the composition wise is a little bit better. The lighting I think is better. There's not something that's distracting, like there's a diffuser here in the left one. Generally a good generation. I think they're a lot better, both of these, than either of the Dalle ones, but both of them are relatively close. I think there's just a little bit too much going on in this one, but whereas this one, I think the lighting is so much softer and it's more aesthetic, and it really drives focus on the bottle that's shining as opposed to having the eucalyptus super green. And I also just like this stone a little bit better. Now we have something with Flux called the raw preset style. So let me open this back up, and as I have Flux here selected, we have a raw style right here, which is going to give us the most photorealistic version of something. And just so you're aware of what it does when you select an image style, is our team of AI engineers have factored in these sets of keywords to tack on to the end of your prompt to give it exactly what you want. So the raw one is going to be tacking on a series of phrases and keywords that will give you a super hyper realistic looking image. And that's what I did here with this right one, which says raw. Both of them look pretty realistic because I think Flux does a pretty good job of that. But just here on the right one, you can tell that it looks a lot more real in terms of the environment. This stone texture is pretty similar in terms of realism, but this one is more of like a marble cut thing that seems like it was taken somewhere for this product photo, where this one is out and about. It looks like this is a column that could actually exist out in a courtyard or something like that. And the light coming through the trees as is being outdoor is super realistic looking. And then if I zoom in just a little bit more, you can see this mist that's around the bottle, which I think is such a cool touch. And the bottle itself is just a bit more opaque, which gives you room to take this and actually use it as a mock-up or however you might use it. And I'm going to show you here on the right side the prompt. And so it's definitely a lot bigger. You may notice that each time we go to the next model, the prompt gets a little bit more specific and a little bit bigger. So this one is a photorealistic close-up of a luxury skincare serum bottle placed on a stone pedestal surrounded by fresh eucalyptus leaves, ambient mist in the background, which we talked about a second ago, golden hour sunlight hitting the bottle from the side, which is nice. We have this angle happening right here. If I just draw it from like right here, so you can see this this angle right here of the sunlight coming in from the trees is super nice. Detailed texture, real depth of field, no text on the bottle. The no text on the bottle, super important. I try to tack that onto the end. I'll either say something like plain or no text or bare label or something like that, depending on what I'm trying to generate, so that you know, hey, don't put like placeholder text. A lot of times if you give it a base prompt and you don't specify that, sometimes all of these AI art models will just kind of give you a image that has like placeholder text on it with some kind of logo that you probably didn't want, and then you have to go and erase it. And I'll actually show you how to do that in a second in Kittl. It's really easy. But adding something like no text on the bottle or plain background or plain bottle, something like that is going to help you out a lot. All right, so let's move on to our next model, and we are getting into Ideogram here. And here's that example I just mentioned a second ago where I forgot to put, no text or don't put anything on the bottle or whatever. I kind of just gave it that base prompt again, which doesn't necessarily suggest that there shouldn't be any text, but it also doesn't say there should be text. Anyway, I actually like the overall image here, but I don't like that there's stuff all over it. I like the mist. I think it's a little bit too heavy, but for a first draft, for just basically putting the prompt in Ideogram and then letting it generate it, this is actually pretty good. And so I decided to keep it here because I want to show you how I would change it. So in Kittl, if I hit, well, I can go up here and I can click on the eraser, but if I just hit the E key, I'm in the eraser now. And if I erase it, obviously it's just going to erase the image, and that is not what we want. So let me just Command Z that. But if I go over here into the top right, you see this thing called Erase and Fill. And if I select that on, what it's going to attempt to do to the best of its ability is fill in this area with what is in the background. So I just basically erased that text, and it should hopefully, yeah, boom, it will just fill in with the background color around it. And so let me try to do the same thing here. I'll just select that little plus symbol, and it should go ahead and fill it, paint it in with the background. And so you can do this all the way through. I'm just going to do it piece by piece. I have found that using the erase and fill piece by piece, section by section, gives you the best generation versus trying to paint the entire area. Now, there's nothing that says you can't do that. You can certainly go and try to paint the entire area, but I think going more methodical like this, just line by line, area by area for what you want to fill in, does a much better job. So let me go ahead and do that here with the bottom one right here. And before you know it, you don't necessarily have to throw this generation away because you have exactly what you want and you did it all in Kittl pretty easily. And so there you go. And no one would ever know the wiser. But you could just generate it again with an optimized prompt and get exactly what you want. And I really like this generation more so for the lighting, but it's not exactly what we were looking for. And then I'm going to show you something really cool about Ideogram. And I think the reason that it likes to generate the stuff with text on it is because Ideogram is a model that handles complex text and graphics really, really well. It is a AI art generation tool that is better for design, for graphics, but occasionally you just want to get the generation without text or something on it. So you could use another model like Flux, or you could do what I just did and erase and fill it in. And just on that note though, you could give it an entire brief. And so just to see what would happen, I gave it a brief asking it to put it on text. And I really, really love the way that it composed this image with the marble and the slat here and the stone in the background with this like arched kind of depth of this wall that's happening in the background. This is a really, really beautiful looking ad that could be made. And even if you didn't want it to have all of this stuff on it, you know, pitching to this client or the brand, or maybe it's even your brand or something like that, wow, this is a really cool composition. I know now that I want it to look this way, so I'll just take this in, I'll change it to my label, and this is an area that we're going to go. But this is an image. I didn't put any text on it or anything like that. All I did was add include bold serif text that says renewed radiance in a clean font above the bottle. And there it is. It actually looks really, really nice there above it. Soft background gradient, white stone surface, muted green and beige palette. So I did add a palette to the end of it because Ideogram can handle a lot more complex stuff in the prompt, like color palettes. And also, like you see here, there's a gradient happening in the background. Now, to get the image that doesn't have any text on it, instead of include bold serif, instead of this line right here, I put the bottle should be plain, no text, optimal space for the label. You can just play with that area to make sure that you do or do not get an image with your text on it. But even if you do, you can use that erase and fill technique to get what you want. And let's say we do like something like this one or this one because we like the colors, we like the arched nature of it. I want to show you another really, really cool feature that we have in Kittl you can utilize with our AI models. If I go up here to the more options, I can click Save as Image Gen Style. And then when I do that, you can see it's going to pop up over here under my saved styles, of which I have quite a few that I've been saving over the past months. And what this is going to do is similar to how I mentioned that our AI engineers have been creating these image styles for you. What Kittl has now done in the back end is take this photo, go through it and figure out the key features, and then set an amount of phrases and keywords that it can use to tack onto your prompt. So now, for example, instead of doing the entire composition, I could just have this selected, and instead I could say a smartwatch product mock-up on a stone slab. And I'm just going to hit generate image to see what happens because it has all of the context in terms of lighting and color and things like that. So let's just see what happens. And there we go. Easy as that. So it took the same green, it took the same cream color, and it has put it on a stone slab. Such a useful tool to use the save as image gen style. Extremely helpful for saving time and for getting consistency in your prompts. So let's go on to our next model, which is going to be ChatGPT. And as I mentioned to you, this one should be pretty surprising. I have been experimenting a lot more with ChatGPT, and I have found that I can get some generally good generations. Now, are these as intense and clean and photorealistic as the ones that are above in maybe Flux? Maybe not necessarily, but they are very accurate and very good. Even the one with the base prompt is very good. This looks very much like metal with the lights and the way that it reflects is so good, especially the dropper that you can see there in the middle of the bottle. And then on this spray side one, the cap actually looks like brass with the light coming up here. It could be plastic, but anyway, it looks like brass to me. And the eucalyptus coming up to the left and some like kind of mist all around it. This is the lighting. It looks really, really cool. So the optimized prompt for ChatGPT, and remember, ChatGPT can handle a lot of context and you can kind of just keep going to give it exactly what you want, is stylized product mock-up for luxury skincare. All that kind of stuff is the same. Flat stone surface. Make sure you're explaining where you want the bottle or the product to be. The bottle is centered, soft natural lighting. Surround it with a few eucalyptus leaves and a light misty background for atmosphere. The style should be clean and minimal with natural beige and green tones. Leave space on the bottle for a label and avoid excessive reflections or surreal elements. So that phrase there at the end is what allows us to get this very massive space where I can then take it to the client and say, hey, is this kind of what you're wanting? Is this the kind of aesthetic you want for this campaign? We could do this. We could shoot the product on a white background, remove it, and then we can use it and generate it on this, or we could even mock it up on this depending on how you want to do it. This is a really great way to get more specific imagery. So let's move on to the last one, which is Gemini. And as you can see here, very different from ChatGPT, but still pretty good. So out of the gate, the first one is very nice. I mean, it looks even more like metallic with the little shine here on the top left. And you can tell like there's a little bit of a dropper in here, which is cool. A bit small, but I love that the focal point there is in the middle. And then you have the eucalyptus coming up and around, which I think is nice. And the mist, the flowy mist across the background is actually pretty good. Then over here on the right side, we have what would be the optimized prompt. And I actually can't tell which one I like better. I think I may like this one because there's more coloring here, but I did give it a optimized prompt that I thought might have been more specific, which was a layout concept for a luxury skincare serum bottle in the center, matte stone base, minimal natural props. I just put eucalyptus in parentheses. I wanted to see if it would generate something else. Soft white mist in the background with warm backlighting. So you see the warm backlighting across the back there. Bottles should be plain with no text. So there's that again. No text being plain at the end is very important. So out of these two, I think I like this one more. I think I like the base prompt more. So sometimes less is more, but it really depends on the model. And so I would want to know from your perspective watching this, which one do you think is best? And which one would you end up using for this kind of use case? Now, if you want access to this specific project so that you can take the prompts and use them at will, change them, then I will have that linked down in the description. It's just a copy of the project that you can go in and change however you would like. Now, another thing that might be helpful for you, especially in Kittl, is for saving your prompts, you don't necessarily have to go and copy all of them and paste them into a document or something. So if you go to where your AI images are held, which is in your uploads panel, you can go to any of these images. Let's say I really like this one, click the three dots, and then we have this feature called View Prompt. So if I select that, you can now see your prompt was stored. We already saved it for you. It's already there. We'll even tell you which version you used and the style that you used. So there it is. You can either copy it if you want, or you can just click Use Prompt. And now you can go and try it out with a different model and a different lighting or a different image style or whatever you want. And the Save Prompt feature will help you a ton. Even take it and try it in something like ChatGPT or try it in another platform or whatever you want to be using. That is a super helpful feature for you. But just to wrap up, I want to give you a couple of insights on which of these generative platforms are the strongest or the weakest. So let's dive into a couple of those things. So with Dalle, you're going to have strength in clean compositions and product layouts and even some typographic formats that you will use in your prompts. But the weaknesses are that it really struggles with realism in terms of fine detail. So sometimes it struggles with reflections and you have to be really specific with your shadows. And it can sometimes be overly digital or overly artistic, like I was showing you with our first generations. So with Dalle, I would generally keep it geared towards artistic things, elements, things like that you need to generate. With Flux, your strengths are certainly going to be photorealism. You're going to have way better cinematic lighting. You can give it a lot more information about the kind of camera that you want to use, the lens that you want to use, the depth of field, the aperture, all of these kinds of things you can give to Flux and it will understand it. You can also give it a lot more textures like mist or glass or water or whatever it is, and it will take that and create shadows and reflections in a much better way. Now, the weaknesses are it can be oversaturated and you may have to do some photo editing, some photo adjusting after the facts, and sometimes it can lean a little bit more into the surrealist photorealism area as opposed to just being a normal flat actual real product. So sometimes being a little bit more specific with the end of your prompt is going to help you out, or you can use one of those image preset styles we have in Kittl. With Ideogram, this is going to be great for any graphic design process or ideation that you need to be taking place. I don't commonly use it for realistic photos, although we do have some presets that we've created that will tack on the keywords to give you a realistic image like what I showed you. But sometimes it's going to be weaker at finding a more stylized, realistic approach. So I would hang on using Ideogram for things like poster compositions and anything that you need to render text on. It's going to be way stronger with text than probably any of the other models. Now, those three that I just talked about, the strengths and weaknesses, you can use in Kittl right now, super easy. You can sign up using the link down in the description. It's free to get started. It's actually free to use those models, so go ahead and give it a go. And if you have a friend or a colleague or a family member, definitely share Kittl with them so that they can get in on the fun. But let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of ChatGPT and Gemini for a second. So with ChatGPT, your strengths are going to be very structured prompting, meaning you can give it a lot of information. You can keep going with detail to refine and refine and refine, and it's going to give you a better generation every time. It also can help you with multi-step refinement. So sometimes it'll even give you a suggestion, or you can ask ChatGPT right then and there, how would I make this generation better? And that can be a real asset to you and a time saver. Now, the weaknesses is that it will depend on another model like Dalle, and all it's doing is trying to optimize it to its most highest reputable platform, and it's limited in the models that it has to generate more complex things. So depending on what you want to generate, it might be better going with a different platform and saving ChatGPT for when you need to go back and find something that's a little bit more artistically stylized. Now with Gemini, I'm actually more of a recent user for that kind of image generation. Up until lately, I didn't even really know that Gemini had that capability yet, but I wanted to give it a try. And then of course for this video, I wanted to compare it, and I was highly surprised with as little information as I could get it for it to give me pretty much what I wanted. So the strength is that it is an integrated reasoning tool with Google. So it has a lot of information on how to formulate something based on your specific requirements. Similar to ChatGPT, you can keep refining and keep crafting that prompt to continue getting a better image. Now, the weakness of Gemini is kind of similar to ChatGPT, where it's still lacking behind other models like a Flux, where the hyper-realistic images are so much more crisp, they're so much more detailed. Even though they're oversaturated at times, you can adjust it and it just looks like a real image. And it looks like you shot it either on a DSLR or, if you specify, maybe on a vintage camera. And where Gemini is trying its best to do something hyper-realistic, sometimes it can definitely look like it was made with AI. And it's sometimes difficult to back it down to be more of a realistic photo. So just think through how you're going to craft the prompts and what kind of use case you're going to be using. That way you can find the best model for you. Now, again, I encourage you to go and check out Kittl. We're going to be adding more models to the AI, and if you don't need any of those things, we already have a ton of images in Kittl for you to go and use, as well as elements, templates, things like that, as well as mockups. So we already have bottle mock-ups and things like that in similar styles, so you can check those out as well. Now, don't forget to let me know down in the comments which of these models you think you're going to be using. Do you like one over the other? I would really love to know that, because depending on what you say means we could make it even better. So be sure to comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one.